this week's episode. For those of you watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop your comments down below, share the video if you can. Any kind of assistance with that will help. We're obviously trying to grow the podcast, and we've seen some pretty good engagement recently, so let's just try and keep that going. For those of you listening on Spotify, Apple, or any of the podcast platforms, please follow, give us a 5-star review. All of that is appreciated. But yeah, let's get into the first game then of the Premier League campaign. It was on Friday evening. Man United 1, Fulham 0. Like I said, the quality wasn't super high, but all considering, I feel like it was a decent opener to the Premier League season. I think the first 25 minutes United weren't great. Fulham had quite a lot of the ball, didn't really do anything with it, but we were very sloppy. But halfway through that first half, we started to kind of get our groove, and there were quite a few chances created with Leno making some big saves from Bruno Fernandes. One where he's a bit sloppy with a back pass, and then Bruno comes in, tries to hit it with the outside of the foot through his legs, but Leno makes a good save. And then a really nicely worked play, I think Casemiro plays a through ball, and Bruno comes onto it with the first time shot, and Leno makes another good save. But yeah, it was quite an eventful second half of the first half, but still no major incidents. Second half, again, another good chance. I think Mason Mount this time with a one-on-one with Leno, he makes a big save. And then for the second half of the second half, it becomes a bit of a basketball game. You see United have quite a lot of the ball high up in Fulham's side of the pitch. And then losing the ball, I think if I remember correctly, Garnacho loses one where he does a bit of a dive. Martinez comes in and slides in for a bit of a last-ditch tackle and misses the ball. And then I think it's Andreas Pereira breaks onto Harry Maguire with the 2-on-1 with who's it on the other side? I think it's Iwobi, right? Who's running off the side of him, and he makes.
Oh no, that was.
Pass.
Are you not talking about the Traore one?
No.
There was about two or three different 2-on-1, 3-on-2 situations that they had with you, and Adama Traore really messed up one of them as well. That was really
there was two of them. There was the Andreas Pereira one was the worst one because that was an exact 2-on-1, and that was the one where Sandro goes diving in for the ball, loses it. Pereira makes a stupid decision, and Maguire sticks his leg out and stops it. And then I think Pereira he gets the ball again, tries to play it through, but by that time Iwobi's like 10 yards offside, so they lose that chance. That was probably the best counter-attacking one. But there's another one with Adama Traore where I think they're 3-on-2, and he plays the wrong ball out wide, and then Lissandro clears it off the line. But yeah, there were a bunch of like basketball counter-attacking moves. Fulham had a couple, but unfortunately weren't able to take them for them. And then yeah, super sub Joshua Zirkzee and Garnacho both come on, I think at the hour mark, and they combined to score the only goal of the game. A decent finish, a bit of a weird one. It was kind of like a toe poke. It looked more like an own goal. I don't know what you thought, Johnson. When I watched it, I was like, bloody hell, that's an own goal. McTominay's managed to shank it off his knee or something. But then when you watch the replay, clearly Zirkzee sticks his left foot out and kind of nicks it off his toe, and it bobbles into the corner for his debut goal for us, which is great for him, to be fair, considering Rasmus Højlund waited about 3.5 months to get his first goal. I think he actually did get a goal in his debut, but it got disallowed for the ball crossing the line or something like that. But scoring on your first appearance is always good for the confidence. And then we miss a glorious chance to make it 2-0. I think his Bassi swings at it, misses it completely. Rashford's through with a 2-on-1. Does the right thing, to be fair, and splits it open to Garnacho, who somehow shanks it wide on his left foot, and it ends 1-0. Standout performances are interesting to get your take. I think obviously Zirkzee gets a shout out for his impact. I think he was really tidy on the ball. He dropped deep quite a lot, got it. His control was amazing, to be honest. Every time he got the ball, his first touch was really good, and he laid it off. He always did like really simple things, and it looks like he's a bit of a Martial regen in that he likes to do all these bounce passes. He doesn't hold on to it too long. He always gives it and goes. So that's really positive. And then in the defence, man, I think Mazraoui had a really tidy debut. He was really good defensively. He kept Iwobi quiet pretty much the whole game. And then he also, made a couple of really important blocks. I think he blocked Iwobi when um, Traore, was it Lissandro said Traore killed him the first time. It was that time when Traore like absolutely blitzed past him, got to the byline and crossed it. Mazraoui came in and made a really good last ditch tackle. And if you remembered last season, the amount of times we conceded cutbacks, it was actually quite refreshing to see a defender in the right position to sense the danger and block it. So I thought Mazraoui had a great debut. And then I think Maguire was decent, man. Like he was put in some really sticky situations, ones that he's not normally quite strong at, on the counter or on the transition, and he did all right. And he stuck his head on a lot, and I feel like he had a really decent performance. So, we're not going to run agendas here. As much as I don't love Maguire as a player for United, he had a good performance. So you've got to give him some props. So let's get into the overall performance. Shantz, what do you think of the game? How did you feel the performance was? Because a lot of people are drawing these comparisons between this Fulham game and Wolves last year. I'll give my opinion in a minute, but what did you think of the game?
I thought it was okay. I don't think it was an outstanding game from either team. I think Man United obviously created the better of the chances, and I'm going to say Leno did well, but at the same time, I think a lot of the shots that were kind of fired at him were all very savable. So I feel like a decent, good goalkeeper saves pretty much all of those. So I would put more of the blame on the finishing from United. I think you created good chances, but just couldn't really finish anything up until where Zirkzee finishes something with the most nonchalant finish I've probably ever seen in my life. It almost looked like he was trying to control the ball, and it just comes off his toe and goes straight into the bottom corner. And I think Leno has absolutely no chance of getting near that. So overall, I think it was a good performance from United, but obviously you're going to need to be better against maybe better quality opposition. And I think your finishing particularly is going to need to be better against better quality opposition. I think defensively you were pretty good, though. I will say Mazraoui really stood out as being, arguably, in my opinion, your best player. I know Zirkzee's going to get the credit for the goal, and I think he was pretty tidy off the ball, but he kind of, and it's not his own fault, but he wasn't really involved that much in the game. It's the same old problem that you get with strikers at United, is that unless you're dropping really deep, like Harry Kane style, you actually don't get that much of the ball. And he did do that a couple of times, and he did get on it and then just pass it off quite nicely. But he didn't really have too much of a chance to really touch the ball overall outside of his actual finish. So I would definitely give it to Mazraoui or Maguire in terms of like your best player. And I think Mazraoui was just really tidy, man. Like he's got really quick feet. He's kind of, there's something about him that just makes it feel like he's playing fast forward. Like everyone else is playing a bit slower and he's playing a lot faster than everyone else. Like his touch on the ball is really, really good. His kind of positioning and ability to smell danger was pretty good as well, because I think Fulham do have a pretty decent attack when they all kind of link up. I know that they didn't make use of their best chances in that match, but he did a pretty good job of shutting down a lot of their threats. The Iwobis, the Traores, the Pereiras, when they're all bombing at you, it can be a pretty difficult one to figure out, and I think he did a pretty good job with that. Maguire also, I think, was really good. I can't say much more about Maguire. He was good. Like, this is what he needs to do more of, and then maybe at some point, the plaudits will come back for him. But I think that you couldn't fault too much of what he did in that match. So overall, I think it was a deserved win for Man United, and I'm imagining you guys hope you can push on from this. So I think this is a good foundation for your next few games. And Fulham aren't, they're not an easy just like walkover type of team. So you did have to work for it, and they will make you work for it, and you did get a deserved win. So I think it was par for the course. Really, it was deserved from Man United.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think there's some desperation out there to try and keep hammering us about Ten Hag and his style of play and all that kind of stuff with these comparisons with Wolves, because I really don't think there is too much of a comparison with Wolves at all. I think we dominated the ball. I don't think we played amazing, like you said. I think if you want to compare it based on the fact that we scraped past both teams, then fair enough in terms of the scoreline. But if you look at the possession of the ball, the passes in the opposition half and opposition goal, penalty error, XG, all these things that I don't really care about, but even on my eye as well, we had all the good chances. If you watch the highlight reel, it will just be a highlight reel of us having chances. Fulham they had good counter-attacking opportunities, but I'm sorry, that's going to happen in a game. Like, I don't know too many teams, unless you're Man City, even Man City have been proven to be a bit vulnerable on the counter-attack and have to face those every now and again. So I think it's unrealistic to expect United to have a game where that doesn't happen at any point. And for it to be
Yeah.
managed in the way it was managed, in that there were no shots on goal that came off any of those opportunities, I'm super happy. And I think it's completely different to Wolves last season. Because if you think of Wolves last season, I think when you look at the stats, but also if you watch that highlight back, the highlight clip from that, it's all Wolves. It's Cunha, it's Nunes, it's all of their players breaking on us and then having shots, and Onana having to make saves or relying on some luck, poor finishing from Wolves side. And I don't think that was the case at all with this Fulham game. So I think there's definitely some stretches being done and some serious aerobics being done to try and make it seem like we're just as poor as we were last year. I will say though,
I wanted to just add one thing to that, right? Like Fulham had 10 shots yesterday, but 0 big chances. I know that like 10 shots is not what you want the opposition to have against you, but that's not too bad. Like zero big chances you conceded. I think the thing that you should be more sad about is you had 4 big chances,
That's
and
what I was gonna say.
you could only convert 1. I think let's forget about the defending for a moment, because I think it was pretty good. I think your conversion clinical nature was just not there, really.
That was the point I was going to get to. Like, I'm more worried about our attacking prowess and our clinical, like being clinical in front of goal. I think that's a problem we had against Liverpool in the friendly recently. That's the problem we had against City in the Community Shield. That's a problem we've had in numerous games last season as well. And that's the thing that makes me a bit more worried. I'm hoping it's just a case of, people are just working out the kinks and they're just, it's early in the season and they need to find their scoring boots and their shooting boots. But yeah, I mean, Garnacho, and I've seen some interesting takes on this because he had the assist in the game. People are like trying to scrub out some of his, wastefulness in the rest of his performance. This is the thing with Garnacho, and we'll see that with Ahmad, who I thought had a tidy game but didn't do too much. They're inconsistent, man. They're young players. They're not going to be able to perform at a high level every single week. You saw both sides of Garnacho in the space of 7 or 8 days. In the Community Shield, he came on and he looked absolutely like so dangerous. Every time he got the ball, he was just penetrating City's defense at every single opportunity and scored a great goal. And then in this game, he got on the ball and it just looked like he didn't know like what to do, and he had no coordination. Like, it just didn't look like he was going to have an impact at all. And fair dues, he gets a good cross in for Zirkzee, but I'm not going to like completely rub out the rest of his performance for the rest of that 30 minutes. I don't think he was great at all. But yeah, it's definitely the attack that worries me a bit more. But I'm hopeful. This is Zirkzee's first official minutes for United. He's still got a lot of room to grow. I hope we give him a start in the next game, so that he's got some more minutes under his belt ahead of Liverpool the following week. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of positives to take, because the stuff that you mentioned on the defensive end is really important. No big chances. 10 shots is not a lot. And that's not 10 shots on target. That's 10 shots in total. So that's decent for me. And yeah, it's more about, can we take our chances? So yeah, I'm positive, man. And I will be fighting all of this Wolves comparison talk because I think it's absolute. But let's get into another thing, which was the post-match interviews. Obviously, you're in China right now. You didn't get to see any of that stuff because it's the host broadcaster here in the UK on Sky Sports. But Ten Hag spoke to the panel after the game, which was, I think, Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, and Roy Keane. It was super funny because he answered in his normal kind of robotic way, but his little interactions with Roy Keane were super funny because it was almost like he was expecting Roy Keane to like stick the knife in, and Roy Keane was being all jovial, and how we come to kind of know him a bit from the overlap and from Stick to Football and that, and he was kind of joking and laughing around, and he was quite positive. But you can tell Ten Hag still coming a bit off that FA Cup vibe where he was ready to like go on the offensive if any of the pundits come for him, because he was ready to go at Roy Keane, even though he's a United legend and a United pundit. But I thought that was super funny. And Martinez, it's probably the first proper interview I've seen of Lisandro Martinez. He spoke really well. He did the usual thing where you don't go into too much depth in terms of like tactics and stuff, right? It was a little bit like press media trained and stuff like that. But he took on Jamie Carragher about his height comments, which I thought was class. And they were kind of a bit scared, it seemed like, Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher to talk on that point, but he went straight for it. And I feel like it was refreshing to see him talk about the Adama Traore situation, because he admitted, he was like, look, Adama Traore killed me on that first one when he took him out completely, but then he learned from his mistake and he killed him back. And he made a joke about, he sent him to the gym, which I thought was hilarious. It's a bit. You can see why people, like opposition players go for Martinez. He's definitely, got that Eshousery element about him. But I liked it because it was all kind of like tongue in cheek type stuff. He wasn't like, super aggressive with it. He was just like, he killed me, I killed him, and then he was laughing and joking about sending Adama Traore to the gym. But I thought those interviews were great, man, and it's positive. It feels like a different vibe, you know what I mean, around the camp. Ten Hag is obviously Ten Hag. I don't think he's going to change too much, but I feel like changing the backroom staff, doing all the changes they've made in the background, I think has really brought, it seems like it, a bit of a kick in the backside and a bit of freshness to the squad, and we needed it. And I feel like that is kind of almost gives me that feeling that the board were like, we're going to give you one more chance, Eric, but we're going to, we can't have things the way they are. And there must have been some bad signs or whispers coming out of the camp for them to get rid of both assistant managers, get rid of a coach, goalie coach, all these guys, and, a lot of the backroom playing staff, as well as changing the upstairs stuff. So I'm positive, man. It was a good interviews to have afterwards. Obviously, we won, so it was, it's more likely to be positive. But I thought it was pretty good. I don't know. You probably didn't catch them, John, so I don't know how much you have to share on it. But from a Man U fan perspective, it was good to see.
No, I mean, as you said, I didn't get a chance to watch them because they're not part of the coverage here. But I did hear some reactions to the Martinez post-match interview, and I did hear that people thought he did pretty well coming out of the back of it, and he spoke well and spoke honestly, which was good. And I think, just to get somebody more like that involved in the pre-match and post-match interviews will be a benefit to the Man United team. I think he's somebody that clearly can handle mockery, or he can handle the media and what they're going to throw at him, and he doesn't seem to be too sensitive, which is pretty important, because I think the height comments probably could wrangle a lot of other defenders out there, and probably they wouldn't be so happy about having to go and talk to Jamie Carragher or Gary Neville after that. But I think he clearly, is made from stronger stuff. And I think a lot of Argentinians are. And he's clearly, ones. The good ones, not the bad ones that get made.
Not the Enzos.
Games. But I think overall, it was pretty good. I didn't see the Ten Hag stuff, and I will go and watch it back afterwards. But I think, man, Ten Hag, you got to pick somebody else to be angry at, because Roy Keane ain't your man. He's the most honest out of all of them. If you're going to go after anyone, go after ratty Gary Neville or Llama Jamie Carragher, who spits at people. Those are the people to go after, not Roy Keane. He's not our national treasure, but he's a national treasure. Leave him alone.
No, he's a legend. He's a legend. But yeah, I think he's still just on like heightened alert to criticism. He didn't really go at Roy, but you could tell there was some underlying, like he didn't really know what to expect. But yeah, I think Roy basically just said, and maybe he was oversimplifying it, but he was just like, just keep getting wins, keep getting results, and you won't get criticism, which is extremely hard when you're at a big club. And it's kind of funny because Martinez and Lisandro was talking about it from the opposite side, and it's exactly what you said. He was like, at this big club, you're going to get criticism, and I'm ready for it, and I'm not going to make excuses. I'm just going to take it on the chin and try and learn from it, which is refreshing, man. Because under other defenders we've had, and that's part of my gripe with Maguire, is when he was getting criticism at the beginning and he'd come out and talk about it, it was always deflecting blame rather than just taking it on the chin. And so it's good, man. And I liked what we saw of De Ligt as well. Just quick mention from him. He came on. He looked really steady as well. It's looking decent, man. We've obviously got really couple of really difficult fixtures going forward. So you'll really see what what we're made of in these next couple of games before the international break. Last question, and you wanted us to talk about this, but I'll I'll nip it in the bud because I know there's a lot of rival fans making jokes about this. So obviously there's been some news that have come out. I think it was Laurie Whitwell you've said from the Athletic, super certified top United journalist, came out and said that basically United knew about a possible weakness in Lenny Yoro's metatarsal in his medical and decided to still sign him because they thought it was not something to derail the deal. I don't know, man. It's one of these things where I first of all, there's some people questioning Laurie Whitwell's the accuracy of his reporting. He's top, man. So I don't think that this is not true. I think there's got to be some truth in this because he's so close to that camp. The Athletic are class generally, right? So they don't report on stuff that's waffle. So I believe it's probably true. It's obviously a bit of a risk if you see something in a medical, but you've just got to trust that they've made the decision that this is something that's not like going to be a chronic problem that hampers him for the rest of the career. And they see it as just something like maybe there was going to be an injury coming up from this, but they'll just ride it out. And once he's recovered, he should be okay. But yeah, obviously it's not a good bit of news coming off the back of this. He's probably our biggest signing in terms of like monetary value, and probably the one that's had the most hype because of the fact we've gone head to head with Real Madrid for him and all that kind of stuff. So it's not great for him on that angle, but I'm not that bothered, man. I think if it was like something like you see some chronic problems in their knee, like ACL or MCL or any of that kind of stuff, then I feel like, yeah, I'd be questioning our medical team's judgment in pushing through with the deal. But with a metatarsal bone in your foot, I feel like, you've got so many bones in your foot. I mean, I know we've had high profile. I mean, but it's just like anything,
it's
right?
Okay.
Like,
all the other bones will make up for it. Don't worry. He doesn't need that extra bone.
Yeah, who needs a metatarsal? But no, I mean, like, I know there's been high profile metatarsal stuff in English football history, right? Beckham, Rooney. But from what obviously we've played sport and played, other sports and stuff where you could hurt your feet and your joints and stuff like that in a similar way to football. Like, I don't think metatarsal it's never been flagged to me when I've had injuries and stuff like that, or I've seen other people have injuries when we were playing tennis and doing other sport where metatarsal is like one of those ones where you need to be super careful about, right? It's normally been things in your knees and your ankles and stuff like that have been a little bit more sensitive. So I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just being biased and a home teamer and being like, I don't really think this is big of a deal, but obviously the proof will be in the pudding. We'll see. If he doesn't make a good recovery from this, then boy, the knives will be out. And our track record with defenders, you're thinking Phil Jones, Lissandro's even had a poor injury record since he's been at United. Bunch of our defenders have not necessarily had the best health records. Yeah, doesn't really bode well, but I'm hoping that it's nothing major. I don't know if you want to add some banter to this topic.
No, I mean, it's not so much the face value of the news that worries me as much as it is the trend or theme behind the back of it. And I think, you've obviously spent a good amount on this young player, right? He's only, 18 years old. He's obviously a hot prospect, but there were a few other people after him at the same time. And there was a big kind of discrepancy in what you were willing to pay versus what, for example, Real Madrid were willing to pay. And I just wonder was the boon of getting this player and, the ability to get him now versus somebody else getting him and, the ability to bring him to Man United for what you hope is going to be a very successful future. Did that cloud your judgment at all in whether you were willing to take certain things in his medical or whatever else, right? Because I also think back to myself, like, if it did come out that he had this problem and you guys decided not to move forward with him, then it would look like, medical, it hasn't gone through at Man United. Man United have decided not to go for Lenny Yoro after going through all this rigmarole. And then the fans come out and start arguing, thinking, what the hell's going on here? Blah, blah, blah. Obviously, you're not going to release all the details, right? So I understand probably the position that your club was in at that time. I just wonder if, maybe not now, but in the future, it might be something you look back on and think, oh, crap, we maybe should not have done that. And I mean, fingers crossed for Lenny Yoro. I hope he doesn't have major injury problems. I hope he can keep going for the future, and obviously I hope he gets over this recent one as quickly as possible. But at the same time, it's just one of those risks you take, and especially when you're spending a decent bit of money for a young player who's already going to be risky in terms of their profile, their age, etc. Is it just another kind of risky move to take on a already risky transfer to go and kind of ignore a metatarsal problem that almost immediately becomes material to the team, right? He almost immediately gets injured on that specific bone, and now he's out for what was it, 6 or 7 weeks? However many, he's probably got 5 weeks left or whatever. Yeah. So
he's out for 3 months minimum. Yeah,
it's probably too early to judge now, but I just hope it isn't one of those things that you end up regretting, because it's a good bit of money to spend on him, especially if he's going to be injured frequently. But anyway, we've had a lot of injuries. Had a lot of injuries this last weekend, both to former Man United players, in Angel Gomez. I hope he's well. And also to Danilo as well. So I don't want to particularly talk too much about other injuries, and I hope Lenioro can stay fit for as long as possible. I just hope Man United aren't too desperate, let's say. But anyway,
yeah. Well, I mean, I think old United, I would question it more. Let's put it this way, and there's no stock enough to say it's going to be like this new leadership team is going to be drastically different. By the way, so I'm not saying I'm ruling it out. I'm just saying with old United, I would seriously go, wow, we've cocked this up, because of their track record, stank, and all that kind of stuff. But for new United, I'm keeping an open mind and hoping, obviously, for his sake, because he looks like a really good, top talent, and he's a young player, so you want to see people fulfill their potential. But I'll have to just wait and see. I'm going to stay cautiously optimistic on it, and yeah, I got it. I know, like jokes have to run, and rival fans have got to come up, like Liverpool fans, Real Madrid fans have got to come up with reasons why they pulled out or whatever. Oh yeah, we knew about the metatarsal and all that. So, but I don't believe it. I think they would both snap their hands off if they could get Lenioro right now, regardless of his injury. I just think they weren't willing to stump up the money and or thought he wasn't on the market.